Why do people blame each other for the problems that they face in life? No one wants to take liability on anything that happens to them. You would hear a child saying, "My mom did," and then the father, "It's my child who is anchoring me," or "my husband, my wife, my neighbor." Why is it that all problems that one faces are caused by their fellow human beings and not themselves? Do we have an answer to this? Our today's message, namely, "It is you," is the answer to that question. Welcome and tune in. This is Mutulu James. Suppose when Adam was created, he never sinned. Would he be leading a smooth, problem-free kind of life? Would he have been just living simply, freely, very happy, nothing to contend against? If we look into the Bible and see what God wanted about man, that of a spirit being like God is spirit, and then he is here creating him a physical man, then we would understand something here. The Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians that the physical man we are is the first step of God's creation process for mankind. There is this notion that when Adam was created, he was holy, he was perfect, and he fell into sin. Even though it is widely believed and preached, there is nothing which is further from the truth than that notion. For the truth is that when Adam was created, he was neither holy nor was he evil. Adam was at a beginning point. He was to begin his life from that point. And for that beginning to take stage, he had to make a choice on what direction we will go, which will mark the beginning of whatever lifestyle he would choose to live. Remember, friends, here we are not talking about Adam. We are talking about you and me. For the word of God is present. God does not speak to dead people. He speaks to those who are living. Or else you would remember David when he cried to God, telling him not to rebuke him in anger, lest he brings him to nothing, and lamented, saying, "In the grave there is no praise of you, there is no memory." So, when we listen to the word of God, let nobody think about Adam. Think about yourself. God is speaking to you because his word is for the hearers, those who are living, not for the dead. So whenever we talk of Adam, we talk of Noah, we talk of Job, God is talking to you in the same way he talked to those who are before us in their time, and for the same purpose that made him to talk to them in that way. So go back into your heart, search yourself, and see whether you are going in the same direction, the same choice that they made, or a different one, based on putting the word of God in front of you weighing your heart feelings, your thoughts, your actions, your talk with what God will reveal to you through this word. So, now back to us. If Adam had not sinned, would he be struggling today, striving against anything? Friends, know and understand that this physical life is for that choice making. Or else, considering Christ, who began where Adam failed, you find that Christ never sinned. Christ, unlike Adam, began differently, and he lived a sinless life. But what you realize is that as it reads somewhere in Romans, in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 3, I'm not going there. Even though Christ lived a sinless life, he did put on a sinful body. What for? Had Adam not sinned, he would still be having a sinful body. For it is God who created this body that way, for the sake of choice making and training, developing whatever character based on the choice you make, based on the mind that you develop according to your choice. So, if Adam had not sinned, he would have begun with that choice whereby he was given two alternatives. He was either to eat the tree of life, which in Proverbs 3:18 is proven to be the life of God, or he was to choose of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which, according to the Bible, we read in 1 John chapter 3, verse 4, that sin is the transgression of God's law, the opposition of the life that God has given, and its fruit in Romans 6:23, the fruit of sinning is death. The reward that one earns by sinning is death. And eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil brings death. So you find that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil signifies the life of opposition which originates from Satan. If Adam had chosen to live the godly way, then he would have begun his training there, whereby we all know that God would have put his spirit in him to give him knowledge on how to go the godly way. We know that man does not produce knowledge by himself. We also know that man cannot understand spiritual things with this physical mind. Job 32 verse 8, there is a spirit in man, but that spirit can only record whatever information you get and so form a knowledge by which you will walk the way you walk, speak the way you speak, and do the way you do. So man must acquire a certain spirit to unite with his spirit, to pump information into his spirit, which is stored as knowledge, and by that knowledge, man will do according to the information he gets from that adjoined spirit. Now, we know that Adam chose to walk the way of Satan. In the book of Ephesians chapter 2, and that is because Satan is the one who began the present world, then the present world is inspired by Satan. And that is the mind that works in almost all men in this generation. For it reads, now that the man cannot have knowledge by himself and must get some knowledge from without, and here he has listened to Satan, then the spirit that joined with his spirit to give him understanding on how to live was that of Satan. For he says, and you, Ephesians 2, verse 1 to 3, and you remained alive when you were dead through the trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, following the course of this world, following the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience. Yeah, you get that? The spirit that joined with the man's spirit to give him understanding on how to live is that of Satan the devil, who is a liar, is a murderer, is an accuser, and is divisive in all that he does, for his aim is to deceive you out of what you should be to become the being that God wanted. And by that deception, you apply yourself, operate yourself against the way you are designed, and by so doing, you kill yourself. Satan is never allowed to force you into anything. Even God does not give himself that permission to force you into anything. We are in this physical body for choice making. And the choice you make is the one that determines the direction of life you will go, whether good or evil. So, Adam began wrongly, receiving a lie that he is like God. And that lie of Eden has remained until today. A reason why you will not agree that it is you. You will blame whatever wrongs that happen to you, to your wife. You blame them to your husband, to your children, to your neighbor. Why? Satan never comes to you as himself. You cannot see Satan because he is a spirit being. Neither can you see God with these naked eyes because he's a spirit being also. You have to see them through knowledge, which must be imparted by the Spirit of God. Here, remember 1 Corinthians, please, let's write there. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, 1 Corinthians chapter 2, beginning from verse 9, and I'll jump as I go to the peak verse, which is 11. We are talking about something that no eye has seen, something no ear has heard, something that has never entered into the minds of men, a thing that God has prepared for you. And here I'm talking about the life that you should live to be accomplished into God's purpose. So, verse 10 says, it is only by revelation to us through the Spirit of God that we can understand. For a carnal-minded person, which we are in these physical bodies, cannot understand spiritual things, cannot know anything about the spirit world. And so, if you will understand Satan or God, you will need God's spirit. Satan's spirit introduces you to a lie, a so-called knowledge, when it is not knowledge, a lie which blinds you to believe you are something else other than what God says. It is the Spirit of God that joins with us, once joins with our spirit, reveals to us what we are, and also gives us to see the satanic designs. But here is Adam choosing the lie, and so he got blind. Now, since Satan is a spirit being, he can only be seen by his actions. We have seen in Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 2 that it is his spirit that inspires you who do not follow God to do what you do. So when he lies and you accept the lie, then the fruits of his spirit are well given in the book of Galatians 5:19. Anger, bitterness, gossip, hatred, murder, adultery, they are all enlisted there. I won't go through them all. Now, if once you accept the lie, then it is like Satan writes his laws in your mind. And then because his aim is to destroy you, he uses you as his agent. He makes you confront your neighbor, confront your friend, confront your husband, confront your wife. And after he does that, you who are confronted, if you are not in God's spirit, you will not see Satan. Satan will now, once you listen to him, because he tells you, no, it is not me, Satan. There is no time Satan will call himself Satan. He will tell you, it's not me. It is that person. The moment you accept what Satan lies to you, then he also gives you the same spirit which is working in that person who confronts you. And instead of seeing Satan, you see the person. That way you begin a confrontation that might resort to a fight, it will resort to a divorced family, it will resort to a murder and killing and hatred, ever arguing, ever contending, striving against each other, because his aim is to use you as his tool to kill yourself and kill your neighbor if need be. Now, it is very strange how, especially we who talk about God and talk of having accepted his way of life, it is very strange when we read the scriptures and we don't take them by what they say. It's like the scriptures are a song we just sing and then we heap them there, while there is another information on how we live. For taking an example, in Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 12, we all sing this verse like a music. We do not contend against flesh and blood, but practically, I'm contending with my wife, I'm contending with my neighbor, I'm contending with my father, with my son. Are those not flesh and blood beings? Then how come I'm still speaking that verse, showing to believe in it, but the application shows that I still contend with flesh and blood? Because we are blind to the spirit world. And this is why you cannot accept it is you. For you listen to Satan who tells you, it is not you, you are right, but your neighbor is bad. When you respond, you react after accepting that it is not Satan, that it is your neighbor, he will give you that spirit. And when you respond, you will not respond in the godly way. You will also use that satanic spirit and affect your neighbor in the same way, failing to respond to what God says in 1 Thessalonians, somewhere in 15:16, that you should overcome evil by doing good. You can't do that if you accept the lie that it is your neighbor who is doing it. There is not a single person who can give another person a spirit by which he will get some information. There are only two spirits, that of Satan and that of God. So you are either being informed by God to act the positive way, or you are informed by Satan to act the negative way. The moment you accept it is Satan, then you will oppose his mind. Remember Romans chapter 7 verse 23. Every time God speaks to us, Satan also speaks. And you have a choice to make, because man's life is a matter of choice making and taking a step towards your choice, developing some character, whether evil or good. So once you agree with Satan, he puts his spirit in you, he puts you on like a dress, and coming with that human being as the being and not Satan, he deceives you and you accept that lie. You continue to fight, you fight, while he's just there behind the curtain. Christ, Stephen, and others knew it. And so, you would hear Christ calling Peter, Satan, behind me. You are not thinking the things of God. You will hear him at the cross saying, forgive them, they don't know what they are doing. Stephen also at the stoning before he died, do not count it on them, for they are blind. Well, this person is not bad. Remember Christ saying, whoever sins is a slave of sin. And a slave doesn't do anything at his will. A slave is captivated to do the will of the master unawares, especially when it comes to deception. But here we are blaming each other, pointing your fingers to your neighbor, to your friend, because you are ignorant. And I'm sorry to say, brethren, we have to accept it. There is nobody who can enter into that spirit world to bother you. Nobody can enter into your mind to make you do things. It is solely your choice, which you accept from an informer, whether Satan or God. Once you take that information, you will apply it as knowledge. Okay, Satan has agents in the same way God has agents. And if you live in the Spirit, you will realize that even if Adam had not sinned, he would still have to walk the pathway of struggle against the flesh. For we read in the book of Ephesians, please, let's write there, in the book of Galatians chapter 5 and verse 17, it says, the flesh is against the spirit, and the spirit desires against the flesh. These two are in contention. They don't agree. So, because God created this flesh in that nature of Satan, then the flesh opposes everything godly. It opposes everything godly, spiritual. So, anybody who walks in the flesh is blind to the spirit world, and all they will see is their fellow human beings. All they will see is materialism. But I tell you, it is not that materialism. Some are blaming poverty for not doing the will of God. Others are blaming abundance, wealth, for not doing the will of God. Others will blame their fellow human beings, their weakness, whatever. All things physical, because they cannot see deep into the spirit. But once you realize the purpose of your life, that of overcoming the flesh, then you will not allow that side mind, that mind which talks to you against the mind of God. For once your mind is united with the Spirit of God, then all that will come to you is God's instructions, His word. If your mind is united with the mind of Satan, then all that will come to you are fleshly desires which oppose everything so-called God. For the carnal mind cannot submit to God. So, that is the mind which you will use to blame your neighbor. Instead of blaming yourself, accepting that you do not know you are weak, and so you need God's help to overcome the flesh. For without God, you can do nothing. Without the help of His Spirit, we cannot contend with Satan. Satan is a spirit being who cannot be boxed with your fist. You can't beat him, you can't shoot him, you can only resist him from your mind. And there is no one who can enter into your mind, neither your neighbor, nor the materialism that you blame for not being here or being there. It's only you who can choose what spirit to apply, what knowledge it will pump to you to follow that direction. There are only two directions, an evil direction and holy direction. So please, I'm here telling you that it is not your neighbor. Remember our topic. Don't waste time blaming anybody. Nobody has a spirit to give another person. We are given the spirit by either Satan or God. No human mind can stand on its own and create or produce knowledge except that it acquires from a uniting spirit. Since no man then can give you a spirit, and no man can enter to your mind, neither can any man enter into the pathway of your choice, then don't be deceived. Listen, please, if you can. In the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 2, yes, 2 Corinthians chapter 2, and this is God telling you, keep Satan from gaining an advantage over you. Do not be ignorant of his designs. Which design? Possessing somebody, making him his slave, coming, pushing him to you as his agent, and telling you it is that man who is disturbing you. That is Satan's design. You are disturbed by your own mind when you make the wrong choice. Repent of it. Don't blame it on anybody. No one can stop you from what you choose to do. Even Satan himself, he can only lie to you. He can't stop you. Even God himself, he can only propose, and once you choose, he gives you his power to resist Satan. But no one can force you, not even God himself. So please, my fellow friend and brethren, do not blame anybody. Don't be deceived. That is Satan's design. The problem is you when you allow your mind to get captivated and be aroused in your fleshly passions. They tempt you into doing the wrong thing, and Satan will tell you, now, if your wife never offended, what? If you chose something opposite to what she chooses, then, as we finalize, let's see what you will do. Whoever is guided by Satan chooses, you choose the opposite one. They choose bad, you choose good. those who are before us, who are the cloud of witnesses that we have, had this to say. And look at yourself. Don't waste time blaming your neighbor. Blame yourself and pray to God that He may open your mind to see properly. Here, please, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, and we finish there because my time is running. It says, 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 12. It says, and we labor, working with our own hands. When reviled, go the opposite. We bless, because you are using different spirits. The evil one will use the evil spirit negatively. You use the right spirit positively. When we are persecuted, we endure. When slandered, we try to reconciliate. We have become and now are as the refuse of the world, the offscouring of all things. So if you have the Spirit of God and somebody affects you against that spirit, you will not give in to allow Satan that design of reaching you through your neighbor. Against the bad that he does, you do good. Against the bad that he does, you do good. So you stand by the Spirit which you have chosen to lead you into that right direction, being a light to that person who has chosen the wrong one. Brethren, it is you, not that person. Do you have ears to hear? Do you believe? Happy are you if you trust God and resist yourself and Satan. Grace and peace be to you.